And hello, everybody. Welcome to the bonus edition of episode number 59 of Riffs and Body Slams. Yes, this is the full gear review and results. Also got some breaking news from the New Japan Pro Wrestling. A little update on the Wrestle Kingdom card. We'll get to that on the very end. By the way, I'm your host, G-Mo, recording from the beautiful suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. How's everybody doing? Give you guys a quick update on All Elite Wrestling Full Gear. Went down, Saturday, November 19th. The day I'm recording is the day after. The little late in the afternoon recording this. Try to give you guys the up-to-date on the reviews and the results of Full Gear. And then a little program update. Hopefully within 72 hours, I should get episode number 60 out and about, at least on or before Thanksgiving. So I'll let you guys enjoy your nice holiday late week, early weekend. Depends on if you're off the whole week or not. But anyway, let's talk about All Elite Wrestling Full Gear. And of course, at the very end of this podcast, I will throw in the media scrum. Mainly just a really funny MJF little press conference he did. Really short, very quick, and straight to the point. Very funny. You got to watch it on YouTube if you haven't had a chance. But I'll put the audio in it, and then also we'll put the audio of just Tony Khan alone. It's like an hour-long media scrum. I was going through it. They had The Claim was on it, Soraya. Who else was on it? Jamie Hayter. I won't spoil everything because I still need to get to the results, but heads up, the media scrum is at the very end. And then I'll give you a little update on the New Japan Pro Wrestling. Major news, the New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom card update. So without further ado, let's talk about Full Gear. Let's get to it. All right, let's talk about Full Gear that went down live on pay-per-view from Newark, New Jersey at the Prudential Center. A very action-packed show. And I'll tell you right now, I put a poll on Twitter. So I'll start from the very beginning of my polls. If you can keep in touch. By the way, Riffs and Body Slams on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. And send me an email, riffsandbodyslams@gmail.com. Let me know what you think about the whole show. So we'll kind of go through my polls I put on my Twitter really quick. So how pumped you guys are for Full Gear. 82% of you guys said you guys were pumped for Full Gear. I posted it yesterday, or not yesterday, about Saturday morning of the pay-per-view of 18%. 1/8 said you guys weren't. So a pretty big percentage, 82%. You guys enjoyed it. And then I posted another poll right after the pay-per-view on thoughts and how you guys felt about it. Was it good or great? 89% of you guys said it was great. 11% you guys thought was bad. I agreed. I was part of the 89%, and I enjoyed the pay-per-view. It was stacked. It was great from top to bottom. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about match number 1, which was part of the pre-show. Now, this match never made it into my predictions results, so I can't tell you if I was right or wrong, but we'll talk about it. Match number 1, Team Chaos, which is Orange Cassidy, Trent Beretta, Chuck Taylor, Rocky Romero, and Danhausen versus The Factory, which is QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, Lee Johnson, Nick Camarado, and Cole Carter. And it's an all right match, I could say. Danhausen was the mystery partner, the 5th member in this whole 10-man tag. So he was the mystery partner for Team Chaos, but Danhausen was repackaged, as you could say. He was more of a darker, sinister, very, very, very evil Danhausen. So it was a little different Danhausen we seen on the pay-per-view, on the pre-show. But he came out, and he definitely assisted the win for Team Chaos to defeat The Factory. So overall, it was a decent match. If it was a star rating, I'd give it probably a 3-star match. All right, match number 2. For the AEW World Championship Limited Tournament semifinals match, Ricky Starks versus Brian Cage. Now, my prediction episode, which was on the original episode 59, I predicted Ricky Starks will defeat who he faced on Rampage, Lance Archer, and move on to the pay-per-view. I was correct. Now my predictions was Ricky Starks defeat Brian Cage and face Ethan Page for the next Dynamite, which is going to happen here in Chicago at the Wintrust Arena the day before Thanksgiving. And yes, my predictions was correct. Ricky Starks defeated Brian Cage in a 10-minute match. A great match. Great pro wrestling match. Defeated him with his finishing move, which is, Rambo Shalar? I forgot. I keep getting that finishing move wrong. But, yeah, Ricky Starks defeated Brian Cage cleanly 1, 2, 3, and advances in the tournament to face Ethan Page this coming Wednesday. And whoever wins then the finals match will get a number 1 contender match for the lovely AEW World Champion. So I got that prediction right. Up next, Eddie Kingston versus Jun Akiyama. So this match came up last minute. Never made it into my prediction, so I can't give you a right or wrong for my thoughts before the pay-per-view. But it was a decent match. It was a good match. These guys was a slobber knocker type of match. Eddie Kingston was a big Akiyama fan who is part of the DDT Japanese promotion. Guy's a legend. And these guys, they put a beat down in the ring. And it was a hell of a match. It was a 10-minute and 30-second match. And overall, Eddie Kingston defeated Jun Akiyama for a dream match win. So congrats to Eddie Kingston. There was I think they were finished up 2 minutes early than they were supposed to, and Eddie Kingston cut a funny promo, the get people hyped up before the pay-per-view started. But overall, I give this match a 4-star match. Why not, right? Great match. So there's that. All right, the pay-per-view kicks off. Pre-show's all over. First match to kick off the pay-per-view, a steel cage match. Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Luchasaurus. This was a great match. It was a violent match, of course. A lot of impressive stuff in this match, especially the beginning of the match with Luchasaurus. Man, he manhandled Jack Perry, same thing. He threw him like a lawn dart inside of the ring, threw Jack Perry at the cage like a lawn dart. What was another one he did? He suplexed him into the cage, really violent. Eventually, Christian Cage interfered, as I mentioned. I believe I mentioned that in my predictions, that he might interfere. The ref had the key for the door hanging out of his pocket with the lanyard, like it's obvious. Christian Cage went up behind the ref and snuck behind him to steal out his pockets, like the ref could have filled it. Christian Cage went over and unlocked the door. Ref saw it, ejected his ass out the building. Eventually, the both men, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, spilled outside of the ring, and they fought outside of the ring. And then there was a point where Luchasaurus did like a springboard on the Jungle Jack Perry and went face first into the cage, wall of the cage. Eventually, both men went back in the ring. Chairs and tables were brought in. But the highlight of this match where Jack Perry was on top of the cage, Luchasaurus was laying on the table, spread out, and Jungle Boy dropped the bionic Macho Man elbow right through the table with Luchasaurus, pinned him 1, 2, 3 for the win, and the winner of the match, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, which I believe that was my pick. So congrats to Jungle Boy, and then I give this match a 4-star match. It was a great, brutal match. All right, up next, the 6-man tag team match for the AEW World Trios Championship match. Death Triangle, Pac, Penta Azera Miedo, and Rey Fenix versus the returning The Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. So Death Triangle came out. They were the first team to come out, came into the ring. Now all eyes are on The Elite, who hasn't appeared on TV, national television, almost 2 months since the last pay-per-view. So they came out, lights shut out, and a little vignette video played on the Titantron, stating that everything moves forward. I can't remember what the vignette says, and we carry on forward. That's what the video said. And the entrance theme song was the classic rock band Kansas. Carry on wayward son. Wherever the hell the song is. You know it is. That was your theme song, Kansas, Carry the Wayward Son. Obviously, fans who were keeping tabs on the whole trademark thing, they're trying to trademark that phrase, and they were unsuccessful to trademark that catchphrase. But, or should I say, I think they pulled out of that trademark submission. But nonetheless, they came out with the classic Kansas song, Carry Our Wayward Sons. Got a massive pop. And my understanding, there is fans film footage from the arena of fans chanting "fuck CM Punk." I haven't checked it out yet, but it's been circulating around the internet about fans chanting "fuck CM Punk" when the Elite came out, and they were chanting Colt Cabana. But yeah, the Elite got a massive pop coming out. They look great, and this match, everything you expect out of both teams. A lot of high spots. Crazy, obnoxious moves. Overall, with this type of match, if you're into this style of pro wrestling, I give this match easily a 4-star match. But my predictions were wrong on this one. I'll admit it, I was wrong. And a lot of pro wrestling fans were shocked as well. Death Triangle defeated the Elite. Whoever thought that would happen, right? So what happened was, midway through the match, Pac, each and every week he tries to cheat with the hammer he carries around. So I think midway in the match, he gave it to Rey Fenix to use the hammer while the ref's back was turned. Rey refused to use the hammer and threw it to the side. Pac didn't like it. As the match got closer to the end, Death Triangle was very threatening. They were in the threatened limit where they might lose the title. Sure enough, Pac threw the hammer the second time. It told him, "Now's your chance or we'll lose our titles." And I can't remember what position Kenny Omega had Rey Fenix on. I believe he was going for the one-winged angel. And Pac threw the hammer towards Rey Fenix. And he used the hammer and striked Kenny Omega with the ref not looking and managed to get the win and defeated the Elite. And they retained the Trios champion. So a little update on that. All Elite Wrestling has announced they're going to do a best-of-7 series. Both teams will face off for 7 times, of course. So apparently this match marks off the one of the 7s. And this goes all the way up to the New Year's week when AEW's in Los Angeles. So the final best of 7s will happen in Los Angeles. And then from there, we'll talk about New Japan, because there's a reason why they're going to end it in Los Angeles for a reason. But nonetheless, yes, the Elite was defeated by Death Triangle. And as I mentioned, if you're a big fan of this style pro wrestling, I give this bad boy at least a 4-star match. All right, let's move on next to the women's singles match for the AEW TBS champion. Jade Cargill will defend her title, even though Nyla Rose, her opponent, stole it and she's carrying it. It was a decent match. It was an 8-minute match, of course. Both women look great. Jade, man, she is powerful, she is strong, and she looks like a star. And Jade Cargill defeated Nyla Rose and retained the AEW TBS champion, and she is continue on her undefeated streak. All right, up next, the 4-way match for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Chris Jericho, the Ring of Honor World Champion, versus Bryan Danielson, versus Claudio Castagnoli, versus Sammy Guevara. It was a good 21-minute match. All 4 men looked great. There was a point where Sammy and Chris Jericho tag teamed up, even though it was a fatal 4-way. Both men teamed up. Same thing with Danielson and Claudio. They both teamed up at least halfway through the match. There was a point in the match where Jericho and Sammy were not in the ring, and there was a nice little pro wrestling expedition match between Danielson and Claudio, even though they're in the same Blackpool Combat Club stable, and they both men shook hands and they wrestled. And it was a nice little wrestling match until Chris Jericho interfered. And as the match got closer to the end, Chris Jericho defeated all four men and retained the Ring of Honor World Champion. So yes, Chris Jericho walks out, still the Ring of Honor Champion. And now All Elite Wrestling has announced that this coming Wednesday on Dynamite, Chris Jericho will defend the Ring of Honor World Champion against New Japan Pro Wrestling Tomohiro Ishii. So that's going to be a great match. By the way, this four-way match, I give it a 4-star match. My personal opinion. All right, up next, the singles women's match of Saraya versus Dr. Britt Baker. Match was pretty good, to be honest with you. Saraya, who hasn't been in action in almost 5 years. You know what? It was not too bad, actually. I wasn't sure if she's going to have a little bit of ring rust or not from being away from 5 years. But again, pretty sure she had a lot of training, obviously from being cleared. I'm not sure how soon she was cleared and how much time she had, training time, I should say, between being cleared and to this match. But nonetheless, it was a solid match. Britt Baker, she looks good. Carried Saraya throughout the match, and Saraya looks good. And her finishing move, I'm not sure what the hell it was, but some kind of a DDT or some kind of spike, I should say, to defeat Dr. Britt Baker cleanly 1, 2, 3. So the winner of the match, Saraya, and I give this match a 3.5-star match. A good match. It was a 12-minute and 30-second match. All right, up next, the three-way match. By the way, I believe my predictions for the Saraya match was true. Up next, the three-way match for the AEW TNT Champion, Samoa Joe versus Wardlow versus Powerhouse Hobbs. And this was a 9-minute, 55-second match. I'm not sure if this is the shortest match, but 3 giant manly men squared off in the ring. And these guys put on the show. Wardlow, guy's a freak of nature. I think he did a suplex on Powerhouse Hobbs. Holy smokes. Guy was impressive. And I think he did a drop kick on Powerhouse Hobbs. And that's how freakish Wardlow is. He's a very impressive guy. Same thing with Powerhouse Hobbs. Hobbs is huge, humongous, and strong. And Samoa Joe's a veteran, of course, as I mentioned. Now, my prediction was Wardlow was going to retain. And I was wrong. Again, this is a 3-way match. This is not necessarily you have to pin or submit the person with the title. You can always pin and submit the other person who has non-title. And that's what happened. Samoa Joe, believe he put the Coquina clutch on Powerhouse Hobbs. And he tapped out, which made Wardlow lose his title. Now Samoa Joe is the new double champion. So he is the Ring of Honor title champion or TV champion. Now he is the AEW TNT champion. So he's double champion. 2 television championships around his waist. And now he's going to walk into Ring of Honor final battle on December 10th with 2 titles around his waist. We'll have to wait and see who his opponent is. But this was a good 3.5-star match, man. It was a good match. So Samoa Joe is the winner. And I got this prediction wrong. Up next, a no disqualification tag team match. Sting and Darby Allin versus the Last Outlaw, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. It was an 11-minute match. It was a good match. I can't remember what my prediction was. Hey, go check it out on episode number 59. Some key highlights in this match was eventually the match immediately spilled outside of the ring. And I believe Jeff Jarrett was laying on a table outside of the we call it the Titantron stage. So right in front of the announcer table. And Darby Allin sets up a ladder on the stage. And he was about to do a 20-foot coffin drop from the stage all up in the air out to the outside of the stage with Jeff Jarrett on the table. And as he did the coffin drop mid-air, he didn't look, but Satnam Singh was next to the table, and he caught, which was very impressive, caught Darby Allin mid-air and carried his ass all the way up to the front of the entrance ramp near the ring and just like power slammed him. Very impressive. And same thing in the ring. Satnam Singh got interfered in the ring. And I can't remember if Darby Allin was doing a submissive hold on Lethal or Jarrett, but Satnam Singh just chokeslammed him. And very impressive. But yeah, Satnam Singh, man, he was interfering in this match. But eventually, the tide was turning, and Sting and Darby managed to do, it was like a Scorpion Death Drop / Coffin Drop on Satnam Singh, which was a very perfect tag team move. But an impressive tag team match, Sting and Darby Allin defeated Jeff Jarrett and Jake Lethal by pinfall in an 11th minute match. And this was a good 4-star match. Great tag team match. All right, up next, Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm for the interim AEW World Championship match. It was a long match for a women's match, a 15-minute match. Both women look great. Jamie Hayter looked like a star. Toni Storm looks like a star. Both women, they kicked ass. It was a slobber knocker type of woman match. There was nothing wrong but the very ending. The very ending was a little weird, but so Rebel, who's part of Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter's team, she came out and tried to interfere, and she got ejected. Sure enough, Dr. Britt Baker, she came out and interfered in the match. And what happened was when the match got closer to the very end, the ref had his back turned away from Britt Baker. Britt Baker was trying to take the top turnbuckle off, the padding, and try to have it exposed so Jamie Hayter could throw Toni Storm into it. And apparently, I guess the ring crew didn't untie it much to make it fast and quick for Britt Baker because she took a long time to untie that turnbuckle. And eventually that time ran out, and Jamie Hayter threw Toni Storm, and the ref tried to keep his face away from Britt Baker from seeing her because obviously what she's doing is very illegal in the match, and apparently he tried to play it off like he never seen it. And apparently Toni Storm got the edge, or at least clipped, of the exposed turnbuckle, and a very sloppy finish because Britt Baker was having a hard time taking the padding off, and Toni Storm hit the exposed turnbuckle. Jamie Hayter pinned her. 1, 2, 3, and Jamie Hayter is your new AEW World Interim Championship. So overall, it was a great 4-star match. So Jamie Hayter, she was my prediction, my winner. So she is your new AEW Interim Champion. Who knows? She might face Thunder Rosa in the near future. Depends how fast she comes back from her injury for a title versus title unification. All right, up next, the AEW World Tag Team Championship to be exact. The Acclaim will defend their titles against Swerve and Glory. This was an awesome tag team match, as always. Again, both teams look great. Apparently, Bowens, I believe his right shoulder, was a little bit injured minorly from this past Wednesday. So he had a lot of tape on his arms. And Anthony Bowens was struggling throughout the match. So Max Caster, his partner, has pretty much had to carry the whole match for him. Now, it's not the first time that happened. Obviously, this happened back in Forbidden Door when they had a 3-way match. So Max Caster had to carry Bowens throughout the whole match. But a very impressive match. Keith Lee looked great. And Swerve Strickland looked great. And as I mentioned, there's going to be some kind of tension between both men. Obviously, Swerve Strickland was trying to cheat by using weapons, and he used the guardrail. And Keith Lee was trying to avoid cheating. But eventually, the Acclaimed defeated Swerve and Glory at 1, 2, 3, and a clean win. and they retained the AEW World Tag Team Champions. So I give this match a 4-star match, another 4-star match, a great match. I believe that was my pick. The Acclaim retained the titles. All right, here comes the main event. MJF versus the AEW World Champion Jon Moxley. Whoever wins this match will either retain the title or someone will become a new champion. This match was a slobber knocker match. You got yourself a pro wrestling match here, folks. There was a point in the match where there was definitely some blood going on in the match. I believe MJF started juicing early in the match. Both men look phenomenal. They look great. MJF, guy's a star. And as the match got closer to the end, now things got a little tricky here. William Regal came out, and the ref had his back turned. MJF pulled out his diamond ring, and he was ready to use it on Jon Moxley as the ref was knocked out. So what happened was where both men pretty much knocked out the ref, and the ref was out cold. And what happened was Moxley had a submission on MJF, and MJF was tapping out like crazy, but the ref was down. Out comes out the second ref. Both men got up, and they knocked out the second ref, so they had 2 refs knocked out. And that's where MJF had the Diamond Dozen ring. He was about to use it on Jon Moxley. William Regal came out and told him, no, put the ring down, you're not using it. And MJF threw the ring out, and he flicked them off. And eventually, Moxley got up and took control of MJF. Eventually, he had a control of MJF. And there was a point in the match, I can't remember what happened was, but both men were knocked out. And here comes the big surprise. The fans popped. William Regal took out brass knuckles out of his pocket, slid it in the ring, and gave it to MJF while Moxley wasn't looking. And Moxley put the brass knuckles on his hand when the original ref got up and wasn't looking, and strike Moxley right in the head, pinned him 1, 2, 3, and the crowd popped. And that right there, folks, showed the whole world that things were changing. Yes, William Regal assists MJF to defeat Jon Moxley and becomes the new AEW World Champion. And a great 4.5-star match. Wow, what a turn of the events at the very end of this main event match. And I tell you what, it was insane. So congrats to MJF. Finally deserve it. Now Moxley lost. Maybe he can get back on that vacation he tried to start back in September, Labor Day. So there you have it, folks. MJF is your new world champion. Now we'll get on to the media scrum. We'll talk about MJF first on the media scrum. Shortly after that, we'll transition to the Tony Khan media scrum. And then we'll end the show talking about the major update from Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Hey, Tony. Chris Welsh with the
times, they are a-changing.
Oh, he's here.
You wait your turn, baby. People pay to see me, not you. Let's talk, shall we? AEW is now destination television once again. The ship has been steered properly once again. This belt is now the most important belt in this entire sport. And it's thanks to 3 letters. And it damn sure ain't AEW. I know for a motherfucking fact it ain't MOX. It's MJF. God damn you people are fucking dumb, man. No offense. No offense. Let's see. You morons bit on every single word I had to say this past couple of months, huh? I want to earn it. I want to fuck that. I deserve it because I'm the best wrestler in the fucking world. And every single one of you know it. On the microphone, in the ring, nobody can touch me. That's a fact. Nobody is on my level. And then, to think you guys still believe me when I put over this motherfucker last Wednesday? Grow the fuck up. No offense. Grow up. Let's talk a little bit, huh? MJF, what's going on with you and Regal? You know, we're all really interested. What's going on? How'd that link up start? Huh? With 70,000 fucking hardcore monks watching at home, jerking off in their grandma's basement. Huh? To my velvet voice? You think I give a shit? No, if you want to know anything about the most important man in professional wrestling, you got to tune in to the MJF show. That's every Wednesday on TBS. You know damn well that is now Destination TV. Now, here's what's going to fun. Okay? I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to get all Moxie's disgusting hepatitis A through Z off of me. And then in the morning, I'm going to do what nobody else on the roster does because I'm the only real fucking star here. I'm going to hop on a jet and I'm going to go to my goddamn set. Anybody got any questions? Huh? Just kidding. Thank you. Fuck you. Bye. Champs fucking out, baby!
All right. We can continue the scrum now. Mandy, we were going to have some more questions and then bring in some of the other people from the pay-per-view.
Hi, Tony.
Hey,
Brandon
good to see you,
Thurston, WrestleMonics. Can you tell us how this pay-per-view is selling?
It looks very positive off the pre-show buys. During the pay-per-view, I wasn't tracking the buys as much, but it looks very similar to the very recent pay-per-views. They've been pretty stable lately in a good range, and I think it would be very similar to the. Yeah, I mean, and that was probably not far off. That was the preliminary buys, so it could be higher, it could be lower, but I definitely think similar to what we've seen from the other shows this year, which is a really good number. It's I'd say the last few shows were in the range of about 140,000, and I think this could be there or better. Yeah, that's cool.
Hey, Tony. Chris Welch with The Verge here. We don't cover wrestling a ton, but we do cover streaming services. So I'm curious for your thoughts. That was a great show top to bottom, but the way people watched it is the same way they've watched your big shows for the past several years. And it seems like the economy might be in for a downturn soon. It could be harder for people to pay $50 for a pay-per-view event. So, how do you feel about streaming right now? How much longer is the BR app a viable path for your big shows? Do you want to be on HBO Max? And by the time people watch full year 2023, do you see changes?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think that right now we've had a great year for pay-per-view buys, and after full gear, I think it's very safe to say and official that this will be the most pay-per-view buys we've ever had in a year. Now that's aided by the fact we added an event this year and with Forbidden Door in partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that's been a really successful debut. But so far, we've had a really strong year on pay-per-view, and I think by continuing to deliver great events, we've got a great tradition of people supporting really Revolution, Double or Nothing. Now Forbidden Door is 1 for 1, All Out, and Full Gear. So it's, having that year-over-year success we've had allows us to feel pretty good about the model we have going right now. But it's certainly always something that we're looking at for the future is, what is the future of delivering events? But certainly right now, it's been really successful for us. Thanks.
Hi, Tony. Rick Holmes, News 12. We spoke
Here
earlier
again,
this
man.
week. Right. We're talking a little bit about bringing up this Northeast tour coming to a close here at Prudential Center tonight. This building wasn't here 15 years ago. It has started to accumulate quite an AEW history here. The original Blood and Guts was going to be here before the pandemic. We had a world title change here tonight. When you think about Newark, New Jersey, you really don't think about a pro wrestling city. A lot of that was because we did not have a world-class building, which I think we do now. What are your thoughts as AEW makes its mark, and why do you keep coming back to Prudential Center? I know we've got the Arthur Ashe shows, but Prudential Center for the indoor arena seems to be the one of choice. So talk to us a little bit about that and the history that's forming here.
Well, we've got a great fan base here around Newark, New Jersey, and this building in particular has been home to some great matches in AEW, title changes. Many of the titles have changed hands in the AEW either tonight or, like Jungle Boy was saying, they won the World Tag Team Championship here too. And we had the first Dynamite in the history of TBS here in the Prudential Center. So certainly a lot of big moments in AEW history have happened right here at Prudential Center. And like you said, I think it is a world-class venue. So by having something like that here, it's the perfect combination. You've got a really great fan base, a really great venue, and it, has come together where we've been able to really have great success with AEW promoting events here at the Prudential Center. So I think I'd like to continue coming here for sure. Thanks for asking. I really enjoyed the other interview we did, by the way. Thank you.
Hi, Tony.
Hey,
Josh Nason,
Josh.
Wrestling Observer. Nice to meet you. I want to ask about two talents we haven't seen in a while. Andrade and Miro. A lot of people online ask about Miro. Can you give us a status on both guys if we're going to see them in AEW again?
Well, I think when we launched AEW, one thing I said is I would, build a big roster, and we kind of would have it be where I wasn't really committing to everybody necessarily working every single week or even possibly working people in and out of the cards. And I think that's still something I'm committed to. So there's people who aren't on every event, but I still would like to get involved. And, you've seen people take some sabbaticals, absences, breaks from AEW for various reasons, come back and get very involved. And I think that's still, for both those guys, potentially something that you could see for differing reasons. I think they're different. They're both apples and oranges in some ways, but I also think both of them are great, and I would, like to get both of them involved in the future. Thanks for asking.
Corey Lee again from Wrestling Observer. Is there any updates on Adam Cole and Hangman Page at this time that you can give to us right now?
Well, I've been in contact with both of them. They're both doing very well. I think, again, they're different situations, but for both of them, I think I'm optimistic we'd get both of them back, but I can't say when either of them would be exactly. But I do think they will both be very well received, and there's a lot of fans looking forward to both of the Adams returning. I think Hangman Page and Adam Cole both would have a big reception upon their return, and the most important thing is they're both doing really well. Thanks, man.
Brandon Thurston, Wrestlenomics again. I was wondering if you could tell us what your perspective is of just the broader live sports rights market in the future. If there's a recession on the horizon, there's some anxiety about whether the cable industry will stay strong. WBD, your partner, is talking about cost cutting frequently. So I imagine that you have a pretty positive outlook on it. It's so important to AEW's future financially. So just wondering what your thoughts are on the live sports rights market.
Well, I've always been able to take a long view on AEW content. We have a lot of resources as a family, and it's a family business. So AEW was able to launch with a good upfront investment and then build big revenue very quickly. And now we have really strong revenue streams that have allowed us to probably, like I said, take the long view of how things play out in 2023, 2024. And I feel like the most important thing for AEW is that we have a really strong media partner with Warner Brothers Discovery. And that partnership has only gotten stronger as the merger happened. And Warner Brothers Discovery has given us more responsibility, more opportunities at additional content. And I think it's going to be good. I mean, not only have we probably got more opportunities to get more content in the WBD pipeline, but also we've had more opportunities to have interconnectivity and integrations with their shows and things that are important to them. So I think we've become an important player. And, like you alluded to, it's been a challenging time for some media properties, but I think for AEW, by having strong year-over-year ratings where we are up year-over-year and, for the entire year, and it's also been a positive quarter for Q4. The pay-per-view buys have been really strong. So I think for AEW, while it is probably for some companies that haven't had the kind of success that AEW has enjoyed in 2022, I could see why it would be a concerning market. For us, I'm actually really optimistic about it. But that is a good question.
Hey, Tony. Tonight we had Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks making their on-screen return. When it comes to their behind-the-scenes roles, have they come and assumed all past responsibilities as EVPs? And what has that return been like? Has it
Yeah,
been-
it's been they have come back and been involved in the shows and things they would do in the production of the show, and also Kenny in the production of the video game, which we saw AEW Fight Forever trailers this weekend, and I think there's a lot of interest in that, and should be a great game. And I think there's a lot of interest building in it for good reason. It looks great, and for a company as young as AEW to have a game and be releasing it this young in our stage as a company, it's pretty exciting, and we've hit a bunch of milestones like that, and it's great to have them back and be a part of the show on screen and off screen.
Funny, David Wittgenstein, babyfaceversusheel.com.
Dave.
As someone who's been trying to put together more of a at least wrestling media friendly wrestling company, what has the process been like, or the thought process at least on your end, trying to balance that with stuff like whether it's giving the wrestlers a little bit more privacy on injuries or stuff like the investigation? How has it been on your end trying to strike the right balance there?
It's tricky, man. It's a subjective thing. It's a good question because I think the fans want that transparency, and to some extent, I do think we offer a lot of transparency into what AEW does. So then, for various reasons, whether it's the quality of the show, legal reasons, or anything in between, which I know those are completely different ends of the spectrum, but like I said, anything in between, it's a subjective call. It's a gut thing. And I try to, give people good insight. I think the most important transparency is false advertising. And, there is a lot of that in wrestling, and I really try to avoid it in AEW. Like, I don't really try to promote matches or try and build up a big match if it's not going to happen, or if somebody's just going to run in and stop it from happening. And once in a blue moon, I think that's okay, but as long as you don't build a reputation for bait and switch, but we really almost never do it. And it just as a rule of thumb, I kind of am almost phobic about that kind of stuff. But there's all different kinds of transparency, but there's a variety of reasons why you do and don't say the things you do and don't say about what happens on and off screen. But it's a fair enough question. Thanks, Dave.
Hi, Tony. Pat Laprade from TV Sports in Montreal. Montreal has been doing very well in terms of ticket sales with your competitor. You now have French TV in Montreal. So is Montreal now a market that is near the top of your list for 2023 as far as Canadian markets go?
Montreal would be a great place to run AEW. It's definitely in consideration. I think Canada has got a great history of wrestling events. Montreal is a city with a great history of wrestling events, in particular, a lot of big gates in Montreal in the history of pro wrestling. And I think for AEW, like you said, we have the French commentary. We have great Canadian stars. I think now that we've been to Toronto and had a great experience and kind of gotten used to some of the things that it takes to run an international event from a logistics standpoint, moving the crew back and forth, I think it's definitely something that, we would be interested in.
What's up?
Hey, Josh.
What up? What's up with Ring of Honor? That's it.
Okay, great. Well, so December 10th, final battle. Well, it's very interesting. So now we have a big match coming up. I think you guys, if following the pay-per-view, some of you, I guess you're all here. So if you didn't see the backstage, I think you all saw it'll be Jericho versus Tomohiro Ishii. Jericho's had a great reign of defending against a bunch of people who've held titles in Ring of Honor, a lot of great wrestlers. And I thought he continued that tonight, defended against a couple of great former Ring of Honor champions in a great four-way match. And now he's defending against a former Ring of Honor World Television Champion, Tomohiro Ishii, at the Wintrust Arena this Wednesday night at Dynamite in Chicago. And the winner of that match will be in a really strong position going into Final Battle. I'm really excited about the Final Battle show. It's a special start time, so it's getting a chance to try something out. It's an experiment doing the show December 10th, 3 p.m. Start time. Is it 3 p.m. local? It's 4 p.m. Eastern? 4 p.m. Eastern. We're in Dallas. That's right. 3 p.m. So, yeah, we're in Eastern time now. So it'll be 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. local start time for anybody who's going to be at the show in Dallas. and the 0 hour will start at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. It'll be a little bit different, and there's a good reasons I think to try it out, and it's a great opportunity, and I think it'll be a great event, and we'll see who wins this big match, Jericho versus Ishii on Dynamite. I think it's a big match, and Ishii had a title shot coming to him. He won that eliminator to get a shot and wasn't able to compete at Forbidden Door. So I thought it was very fitting. He comes in, and as a former Ring of Honor World TV champion, he's a perfect candidate to take advantage of these opportunities to come in and challenge in what is the Ring of Jericho. And so that's pretty exciting, and we'll see what happens there going into Final Battle. So far, since I took over Ring of Honor, we've had 2 pay-per-view shows that have done really well, and they've been really good revenue. On a per event basis, this is shaping up to be the best year in Ring of Honor's 20-year history for live events and pay-per-view. So that's fun. And right now, I believe with Final Battle, we can follow up on what we did with Death Before Dishonor and Supercard of Honor and have another really good buy rate and sell a lot of tickets outside of AEW without cannibalizing AEW, because I think we have had some of the matches on AEW. I think it's, when you see matches like the one we had tonight with Chris Jericho, there were 10 matches on the pay-per-view. Only one of them was for a Ring of Honor championship, and I thought it was one of the great matches on the show. And the video package highlighted why the lineage matters, and a lot of great champions were involved in the match. Jerry Lynn, one of the people backstage, a coach, a former Ring of Honor champion, and then the participants in the match, and a lot of other great names. And I would love to get a Ring of Honor TV show, a weekly show, and I'm still optimistic about doing that. But right now, we had to focus on Full Gear, our AEW shows, and now with AEW going into some really big events, heading into Chicago, Indianapolis, and then heading to Texas. I thought it was very fitting. While a lot of people that might potentially be involved could be in Texas, we'll have a Final Battle, and it's going to be a great show. Thanks.
Hi, Tony and Denise. So my question for you is, have you had any conversations with New Japan Pro Wrestling about AEW talent appearing at Wrestle Kingdom? And also, did you have that in mind while you were booking the Best of 7 series?
Well, I have had conversations with them about it. I've been mindful of it when I've been doing all the dates and looking at everything around the Seattle show, because as you probably know, we have a AEW Dynamite event in Seattle on the night of the Tokyo Dome, January 4th. And then we're in Portland on the 6th, which is pretty close to the New Japan show on the 5th. So I do think that week would be a bit of a challenge. So I have had good talks with them about it. As you saw, Rocky was actually here. So, I've had good conversations with them about that. And I'm optimistic we'll be able to participate in some capacity on Wrestle Kingdom. But I do think a lot of the top AEW stars are going to have to stay here. It's important we keep all the big stars we can for AEW in Seattle. Thanks.
Tony, Nick Hausman with
Hi.
Wrestling Inc.
Hi, Nick.
Hi. I want to kind of piggyback off the Ring of Honor question a little bit. On the road to Full Gear and the build to the ROH title match, there was, of course, the booking of Colt Cabana that got a lot of attention. I was wondering if you could address how you came to the decision to put Colt in that spot, and also if you could kind of clarify maybe once and for all, did CM Punk ever ask to have Colt Cabana move to Ring of Honor or not share the locker room with him?
No, he never asked for that. The first time it came up, I think you asked me that on a scrum call, and I wasn't looking at you face to face, and I really was trying to, it was before Death Before Dishonor, I think. He never asked me that, and it was, I could have probably addressed it then, and I just didn't comment on it because I wanted to keep talking about the wrestling that was on the show, because Colt Cabana was wrestling on the show. And so, and this, you weren't asking me specifically about the show, so I didn't answer that there, but no. And then as far as the match with Chris in Baltimore, I thought it made a lot of sense because we had the Ring of Honor Championship Series, and we had talked about Chris Jericho's wrestling so many of the great names in Ring of Honor. And so you know, when you talk about like great people who've held championships in Ring of Honor, we brought in Bandito, Dalton Castle, a lot of great people. Tomohiro Ishii is a great former Ring of Honor World TV champion who I think is a match, like I was saying, I'm really excited for with Jericho. I think that could be a match, a Tokyo Dome caliber match. And when we've been booking the shows, I've been using Colt Cabana both as a coach and a wrestler in Ring of Honor. So I looked at the Ring of Honor roster, and Colt Cabana is a very logical challenger because not only has he held the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship, but he's also somebody who's been wrestling in kind of the new Ring of Honor, the 2022 Ring of Honor, is undefeated and has won both of his matches. So I thought he'd be a very logical challenger for Chris, and it's also a good match. So
that there was him coming back was somehow aligned.
yes, but he was wrestling in Ring of Honor, and then he wrestled for the Ring of Honor Championship. So if you look at the booking of it, and it's like he's 2-0 in Ring of Honor, and he's wrestling Chris Jericho, who is the Ring of Honor champion. And like when Colt Cabana has won at both Supercard of Honor and Death Before Dishonor, and that's what I've been using him in, is Ring of Honor, then he's a former Ring of Honor champion. He's a really logical person to challenge Chris. Plus, he's a very compelling babyface and somebody the crowd gets behind. He's a really good wrestler. And so I thought it'd be a really good match, and I think it was a really good match. Thanks.
Hi, Tony. Liam Crowley, comicbooks.com. I want to talk again about the Elite's return. They come out to Wayward Son. Talk to me about the clearance process of getting that song cleared. Is it going to just be a one-off? And we also saw reports that they might have tried to trademark the name Wayward Sons. Was there ever any discussion about rebranding the Elite, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks as maybe something else?
No, we never talk about changing the name. That like it wasn't like going to be a rebrand or anything. It wasn't going to be like a Generation Me situation or anything. I was a big fan of the Young Bucks, and when they were Generation Me, I was thinking like, okay, I really liked the Young Bucks and Nigel McGuinness, and when they were like Generation Me and Desmond Wolfe, I was scratching my head. That's why I like so many of the people. I think it's good when people come into AEW and keep their names for the most part. With the Wayward Son trademark, no, I don't know about the trademark, but I do think the song was a great idea. They asked me about licensing it, and you know, it's similar to trades in sports where it takes two willing parties, and sometimes you're like very happy to get a deal done. You're like, wow, that was really very pleasant, and like it was a good deal and a good trade for both teams, and you feel like good about the trade. Other times they're very like brutal and painful, and at the end of it, you feel like you got dragged. And this was not one of those. They were very nice. So the really Kansas and all the people we worked with were very nice about licensing it, and the Elite asked me about the use of it, and I thought it was a great idea. And I was really excited about the idea of the series. I'm really excited about matches going forward, and I think after the really interesting finish and controversial ending, I would say, to the match, I thought it was really appropriate to settle it and figure out who is the undisputed World Trios champions with a best of 7 series. And I really couldn't imagine two better trios in the history of AEW to go out and have a best of 7.
Is this a one-off, or this will be their theme moving forward, Wayward Sons?
I am very open to using it again. And they were very cool about us using it tonight. So I'm I think there's a good chance we could use it again. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah.
Will Washington with Fightful. So it's kind of a multi-layered question. So in 2019, you ran 4 pay-per-views. 2020, you ran 4 pay-per-views. 2021, you ran 4 pay-per-views. This year, in 3 weeks, you will have completed 8 pay-per-views. You will have doubled the amount of pay-per-views you've booked in.
No, when you say you're talking Tony Khan, not AEW.
Specifically talking Tony
Yes.
Khan. Yes. So I guess talking about that, do you feel comfortable at that point with the amount of pay-per-views you're booking at this stage? Do you feel going into 2023, you want to keep that load, or do you want to even increase it?
Do you mean me again? So you mean me personally, not the AEW? Because AEW, I think, has done 5 pay-per-views. One which was a collaboration that with NJPW. You know, I've run 5 AEW pay-per-views and 3 Ring of Honor pay-per-views, but I don't see them as necessarily competing products. Like I think there's synergies with them, and even though I am working on 8 pay-per-view shows, if you're asking me about my own personal capacity, I could talk. But as far as like AEW, I think 5 is a really good number, and I think what we've done with Ring of Honor so far with the 3 has been really nice.
I mean, I know we're talking semantics here, but really, at the moment, they're kind of one and the same product, in that it's all existing on Dynamite, it's all existing on Rampage.
Some is existing on. I mean, to be fair, it's a great point, and to really take it to the next level, I think it's also fair to point out that there's been defenses on Elevation and Dark, Dark and Elevation, where is it working? I don't know. Do you have a follow up, or is there any more?
I guess
No, you want to keep it. Okay. So because no, it's a great point. So because also there have been defenses on Dark and Elevation. So to your point, I don't think it's all one and the same product, because where it differentiates is the pay-per-views and the builds of the pay-per-views. And I guess I would like to use other TV products, but you probably have seen a little bit more in terms of title defenses and some of the segments on Dark and Elevation for Ring of Honor that you wouldn't necessarily see as many of the AEW championship matches on Dark and Elevation as you have for Ring of Honor. But Mercedes and the Pure Champions, Garcia and Yuta, have both defended the title on Dark and Elevation. Claudio, as world champion, defended the title on YouTube also. So I've been open to using the Dark and Elevation also to build some of those matches. But I think, to your point, some of it has existed on Dynamite and Rampage. I think it would be great, and I'm optimistic about trying to get Ring of Honor weekly TV going. But really, like I said, the focus was really November 19th today, Full Gear, and then going into Final Battle on December 10th. I think it's a really good number for the two companies, but I think it's good to distinguish the two, because I think there's people that are big AEW fans that watch the TV, and clearly I think there's some people we've gotten interested in Ring of Honor that weren't buying the Ring of Honor shows before. But I don't think we've done it in a way where if you're an AEW fan, you don't have to buy the Ring of Honor shows, if that makes sense. And it's not like I'm saying I'm trying to find. I really I value the question, but I'm also tried to create a product where a lot of the AEW centric storylines are separate from the Ring of Honor storylines, if that makes sense. Like, for example, most of what's happened on AEW TV has been focused around the major championships in Ring of Honor, and I think we've built a lot of interest, in particular, around the Ring of Honor World Championship. Chris Jericho, Samoa Joe, for example, tonight, the Ring of Honor World TV Champion, he was competing for the TNT Championship. Now it's interesting because they are, to your point, one and the same. Now that is creating a little bit more synergy between the two shows, having one person have both the belts. So I think that 8 is a good number, but I also think it's important to distinguish, because we're not doing 8 pay-per-views. Like, AEW is doing 5 and Ring of Honor is doing 3. And I still see them as separate properties, even though there's been matches between the two. For example, New Japan Pro Wrestling, there's been matches involving a lot of the New Japan wrestlers and even New Japan championships on AEW, and not even exclusively around Forbidden Door. We've done it other times too, as you know. So I think it's more about companies working together. So I know it's a little bit different with Ring of Honor than it is with New Japan, but I see them as, outside of the two biggest promotions in the world, which I think are AEW and WWE, I think there's also two really big promotions with New Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor that we partner with, and we've had championship matches from Lucha Libre, AAA, and other companies too. So, but to your bigger question, I really like the 8, the way it's split.
You've been asked a lot about the TV deal for Ring of Honor. It seems like that's, very uncertain at this point. Have you given any consideration to maybe, giving them a YouTube show, or maybe doing one of the Universal tapings instead of Dark?
I mean, there are things that are
just to give them, more of a consistent presence instead of balancing it on Dynamite and the other 3 shows.
I've definitely considered a lot of options, but I think it would be hasty when there are other options out there to jump into something, because it's a pretty valuable property. And even for example, the pay-per-views, for example, to throw out a number which would be for an AEW pay-per-view, it's probably 25% or so of what you might get for an AEW pay-per-view, or less than 25% of some AEW pay-per-views. But say a number like 35,000 buys at the price point for Ring of Honor, which is also a lower price point. Then on the one hand, for AEW, that's not that revenue, but on the other hand, it's not something I really see cannibalizing the AEW pay-per-view product, because the AEW pay-per-view buys have been pretty stable while we've done the Ring of Honor pay-per-views. So for the TV, I really would like to get that going, and I see it as a weekly series. But because it's such a major leap, I've been holding off on, because I could easily just do a YouTube show. Anybody, but I think it probably deserves something better than that. I completely see that, but I think it would be like going from, if just doing a YouTube show as a placeholder, I think would be almost probably less. It would be a trade-off, because in some ways it would be beneficial by not having some matches that could take away from other matches that would feature some people in AEW. But I also think a lot of the people from Ring of Honor that we featured, like the champions, happen to be some of the biggest names in AEW, like Chris Jericho, Samoa Joe, FTR. So when those people have wrestled in matches, whether it was FTR, around Forbidden Door with the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships, or Chris Jericho doing the Ring of Jericho, or Samoa Joe defending the TV title, Mercedes is just getting back healthy. So I think at times those have been good to the show, but I also try to keep a balance where it's not the whole show. And I think, like I said, tonight with 10 matches on the pay-per-view, and there was one match that was a Ring of Honor Championship match, I thought that was a good balance.
Hey, Tony. Got a different question for you. AEW is the first promotion launched during the Twitter era. Obviously, we're all watching this crazy, tumultuous time for that social media platform. You communicate with the audience all the time there. Konosuke's signing was announced today. AEW has built a huge Twitter following. You got over 1 million followers across the different platforms and accounts there. Have you been monitoring it? What does it mean to AEW if this thing really does crash into a wall and die, even short term? And what's your thoughts on just the entire craziness of the last couple of weeks, given Twitter has become an important part of the AEW experience?
Well, that's a great thought. I think, in particular, it's become a subject of conversation in recent days. I'm not sure what the future of that platform is, but I think it's been a home to a lot of wrestling conversation, and it kind of aggregated a lot of the message board conversation that went on for a lot of years, and a lot of message board people aggregated into one place on Twitter, and it combined a lot of the people in this room I know from various message boards and chat rooms, that it put all of them in one place in a unique way. And I think it's, still is home to a lot of that conversation. So, we'll have to see. But I mean, there's always been great homes, and the wrestling people, we've always seemed to all find each other. So, but I think certainly Twitter's been working the last several days. So I've been tweeting, and it seems to be working pretty well. I really appreciate it, everybody. I don't get a chance to see you all very often, but I really appreciate everybody coming out. I see a bunch of people I interact with on a pretty regular basis, and all of you coming out to cover our pay-per-view, it means a lot, and I hope we gave you a good show. Is there anybody that came here that did not get to ask a question today that would like to ask a question just before I leave? You have not asked a question. That's a great question. I have not got the exact details on the date of that. I think all we've announced is that we're coming in 2023, and our first AEW event in the UK is going to be in London. We're still working through some of the details. Like I alluded to before, we just actually did our first ever international event this year, and it's pretty complicated, but in a good way. We're still a young company, so we learned a lot by going to Canada, and I think we can take that and parlay it into our first overseas trip. And then also, I think it can be really good revenue for the company. Like today was our fourth straight pay-per-view with over $1 million in live ticket sales. And it's the 5th event this year that we did that, and we'd never done it before. This year it's a new milestone, and I think that's the kind of business we potentially could do in the UK, which is pretty exciting. So we're not taking it lightly, but next year is definitely the plan, and it's crazy because it's already mid to late November here. So next year is right around the corner. Pretty soon, that's going to be this year. Well, thank you so much for all being here. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
All righty, folks. Made it to the end. Let's talk about the major update from New Japan Pro Wrestling. So as of this morning, after the Elite made their return back in All Elite Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling has released a video of Kenny Omega cutting a promo on their very own social media platforms, which is on YouTube. Kenny Omega has announced that he wants to face Will Ospreay for the title at Wrestle Kingdom, January 2023, and he wants the gold. So yes, Kenny Omega is returning back to New Japan Pro Wrestling since his departure back in 2019 when All Elite Wrestling was formed. So yes, Kenny Omega is returning back home to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he's coming back to the Tokyo Dome once again to put on a spectacular performance in front of a massive crowd at the Tokyo Dome against Will Ospreay for the title. So that's going to be a huge, big-time match here, folks. A lot on the table is going to go down. Could this lead to something in the near future? What if Kenny Omega wins the title? By the way, the title is the IWGP United States Champion. So Omega could win the title and bring it to AEW and challenge it here on the land. So, big news for New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is going down, I believe, in January 4th, January 3rd or 4th, or 4th or 5th. One of the twos. I believe they're doing 2 nights back-to-back. You can stream it on NewJapanWorld.com. Only $9.99 a month. You can't beat it. If you can watch it here in the United States, really early in the morning, like 2 or 3 in the morning. But you can watch it on a demand anytime you want. Huge, massive, big news for New Japan and AEW. Yes, the forbidden door is still cracked open. We'll have to wait and see what the end results will be. But nonetheless, thank you very much for tuning in to this bonus edition of Riffs and Body Slam episode number 59. Again, if you're a new subscriber, subscribe to the episode each and every week so you never miss an episode. And if you're a daily listener, thank you very much. As I mention each and every week, send me your first name and where you're from, and I'd like to highlight you on the podcast to send my gratitude and thank you for being your loyal listener. So, as I mentioned, Riffs and Body Slams on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and riffsandbodyslams@gmail.com. All right, I will speak to you guys in 72 hours for the episode number 60, the Thanksgiving edition. Get it out there so you guys can enjoy your nice holiday week. So until in a couple days, my friends, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you guys later on.